Welcome, Tiny Hands, Big Dreams. So today we're going to go into more detail about the electric fences for pigs. Now we did another video which was an overview. Highly suggest checking out first. That's some good, just to get an overview of the concept. We're going to go into the details, the setup, and what it means to set this up to be a dynamic fence, to be successful keeping pigs. And we've had excellent results with it, but it takes some care and it takes a little bit of a different setup. Now, here's Wilbur and Eli in the background. Now, as you can see, this is our last pig area after 6 months. It has changed. That earth used to be a gentle slope. It is now stepped. The fence needed to change with it. It needed to go up in places, moved, mud needed cleared from it, sticks needed cleared. There's really a lot that goes on that you have to go and deal with. So Wilbur's also, he's in our, what we left as a center gate. We'll show that later and talk about how that's important. But really, you have to understand dynamic fence, not a static fence, just like a chain link fence you'd use for a dog. This is the primary idea of what we came up with, and to do it really cheap. It had to be economical. Our budget here is fantastically tiny. So we came up with this whole system nearly free for us. Now, where you start is we started with 2 purchased pigs, bought from a local guy. They'd never seen an electric fence. So you have to start them out with somewhere safe, which is a home they can run back to, a hard fence they cannot charge through, and they will try to charge through it, and the electric fence inside that as the training fence. This is the training area. So they will test it, they'll get shocked, they'll try to run through it, then they'll run back. After some days, they stop testing the fence. They learn that that hurts. They associate that fence with pain. So after some days, they stop testing it. We go ahead and we take down the training fence and we give them their area. And that's what you see here. So now let's get into the pieces and how we make it work. The first is we came up with a concept of using old water pipe as a triple insulator. It was free for us. We literally found it laying on the property that we bought. So we start by cutting some sticks. We burn the bottom of the stick. I slash cut it. Then we soak in a little bit of boric acid, which is nearly free. It's very cheap. The insulator is 3 cuts made with reciprocating saw and 2 holes simply drilled. I tie that on. I can now push that stick in wherever I want. It doesn't need to hold physical force. It's not what this fence is about. I can move the insulator up or down the post while it's in place. This is something you can't do with a step-in post like from Tractor Supply, and it's something that cannot be done with a net fence. But I can move all 3 easily up or down. That's kind of a big deal. It makes life really easy when you need to adjust for the ground changing as they do. So, and I got the tape measure in there just so you can see where the cuts are. I like 4 to 6 inches on the bottom between the fence and the ground. Now this is an insulator that we bought a bunch of and we stopped using. They have to go into a thick post. They have to use nails because they have a flat landing spot. You can't use a screw, which means you can't really move them. They break, they wear out in the sun, the UV degrades them. Kind of terrible. So here's an example of how we would do our post and the 3 strings. Now these are all possibles. You can use any of them. This is your standard string. It's got wire woven into it. It's economical, but it's not the most visible. This is ribbon. Highly suggest the ribbon. It is more expensive, but the pigs can see it. This is about for pigs. I recommend that at least 1 strand in the middle. Now, wire, plain steel wire with a galvanized on it, is real cheap. We use the heck out of it because, like I said, it's really cheap, but it tends to sag. It's difficult to tension, so I made a little tensioning tool. This is just a piece of the same water pipe. So I can go ahead and I can put it up there, push it on, I give it a twist, and not only have I tensioned the wire so it doesn't sag, I have made a release spot. When something falls, as a tree branch does, we live in a jungle. Now this is a live fence I'm doing this to. But when something falls, it hits the wire and it unpulls that little Z-bend out. Thereby, no damage happened. Everything's great. Move right along. Now, I talked a second ago about a net fence. No, we started with one. That's the premier one. And I can't say we liked it. We didn't have good luck with it. It does not work on uneven ground. The fixed pole length is a huge problem for the uneven ground. The wire's too close to the ground. It's just trying to move it around. It tangled on us terribly. We used it. We sold it again. Just frustrated with it. If you have smooth ground, if you have a big pasture, might work great for you. Some people have excellent luck. Did not work well for us. So, setting up the fence. The first thing is you kind of get yourself a rough idea of where you want to go. And we do that, and we set ourselves a 3 or 4 foot wide kind of path that is going to be the new area. Now, once you plant a stake, you now have to find the next point. And this is where the ground comes into play. You can't be super exacting with your lines. Your fence is going to be a strange shape because you're following the contour of the ground. And we may move up, we may move down, we may move closer or further. If there's a hump, I have to put a post on the hump. If there's a divot, well, the pig would just run underneath. So I have to put another post. So you have to be variable in how far they are apart and where they are. And once you get a kind of a nice contour, there's a roughly even gap from the string to the ground. Now you'll see that one's tilted. That's intentional. So that's leaning inwards because the string is going to go from there and sort of off to the right. The natural tension of the string will help pull it down in the slots that we have cut. And I will lean them in or out just depending, and it just helps keep the strings in the slots. So here's us using high visibility, I think it's a mason line, and that just works great for seeing what we're doing, and we do the entire bottom like that. We go ahead and we run all the way around, point to point to point. And that's kind of what it is. Now, here's me coming around. I've done all my points. I've laid it out. This is the ribbon. Once the ribbon is cut, you have to tie it together in a very, very solid way. You can't just sort of tie it. It doesn't make contact. You will hear it arcing and snapping. So I'll tie a loop. I'll tie through the loop. I'll wrap around. I'll braid through the loop. I'll tie another couple of knots. The idea is all those little tiny wires and the ribbon have to touch the other ribbon. So you just want a ton of contact. Now, this is also my gate for the new area, and I'm doing a double gate. I have 4 posts that are all equidistant, and I have cuts in all my wires at the one post. This means that I can simply pick up the wires off a corner post, swing them 90 degrees, which cuts off my little access aisle, but now opens a corridor between the 2 pig areas. Being able to move them back and forth is sometimes necessary, especially because we have boars and sows, and it's getting time for them to be friendly again. So that's what I'm doing here. Is I'm simply planning in an easy opening gate for us. Now let's see the old area here. Now, Wilbur has decided that where I only have a single piece of fence between him and Mrs. Piggles was his most favorite area ever, and he has dug that down almost a meter, turning it into a cliff. You can see it just on the left side of the screen. That is our gate, and I have to kind of pick those up, and I would sweep them aside, and unfortunately, at this point, I don't even know that he could make it back up that. So luckily, we didn't need to. So we're now doing everything is separated by at least 3 to 4 feet so that they don't have like nose to nose touching through the fence. It was a little too tempting for the big guy. So you have to move their old house. Remember, this is what they knew. This was their safe spot. So we create a simple house, just a piece of sheet metal roofing suspended on some sticks, and I move that to the new area That helps them become comfortable in the new area. Here it is in the new area. That's all it is. Some sticks tied to trees, a couple of extra posts to hold up a corner. They took right to it. Water posts. It's definitely a good idea to have water posts already in. I dig those into the ground, I pound them. It's just a piece of tree log that I have burned the end on real good and then hammered in. I have set the water line into the post just by putting a chainsaw cut, and then I have some steel wire to keep it secure. Works out well. This is the aisle or the path around the outside. You always have to leave yourself a good path. You have to walk the fence fairly often. You have to check it. Stuff happens. Trees fall. Pigs move things. Leave yourself a nice, easy walking path all the way around the outside of the pigs. Okay, moving day. We've set the whole fence up. We've got it ready to go. We've got our water. We've got our house. I've even taken down a good chunk of Wilbur's fence because I needed the ribbon for the new area. However, Wilby, being a smart pig, has learned that fence line. He's learned that it hurts and he doesn't want to leave. So, this is me trying to coax him across what is now not a fence. We spent a good bit of time. I don't know, I probably spent 45 minutes trying to convince him that there's no more fence here and it's okay, and there's greener pastures. He wasn't so sure. We have buckets of bananas. So finally, banana on a stick. Highly recommend banana on a stick. That was enough to distract him. So I've set myself up a rough corridor between the two areas with a couple of temporary posts and just an extra piece of ribbon. And as far as he knows, that's just sort of a hallway. He looks and he sees it. Okay, there's a fence. And then he starts to get excited about, oh, look at all the fresh greens and the grounds and the things. And all of a sudden, at some point, he's so excited and he just goes for it. So it helps to connect the areas and to kind of step them from one to another. Now, this is how it looked when we started the second and the last area. You can see how we've set up the fence. We used a lot of ribbon for this one. I have aerialed the wires over from our box, which is closer to our home. And we dropped our high tension down out there. You can also see our temporary small battery powered one that's still in the picture, which we use on occasion. So that's the electric fence. That's what we do with it. It works really well. There's a lot of little details people were asking about, and I want to kind of to just touch on those real quick and highlight some of the things that we do that make it successful. All right. Have a great day. See you next time.